Alright, so now we are going to be talking about cross join. So cross join can be defined as a Cartesian product of the two tables included in the join. The table after join contains the same number of rows as in the cross product of the number of rows in the two tables. If a where clause is used in cross join, then the query will work like an inner join. If a where clause is used in a cross join, then query will work as an inner join. Okay, so basically, select student dot name subject dot subject sub dot subject from students as to cross join subjects as sub. Okay, so this is the syntax that we use. Self join basically joins on its own self, and cross join would join two tables. Right now, write an SQL statement to cross join table 1 with table 2 and fetch column 1. So basically, this is our tasks that have been assigned to us. So we can do this later on. First, let us talk about what is a self join. So self join is a case of regular join where a table is joined to itself based on some relation between its own columns. Self join uses the inner join or left join clause, and a table alias is used to assign different names to the table within the query. So select a.emp.id as emp id, a.emp name as employee, b.emp id as sub id, b.emp name as supervisor from employee A, employee B, where a.emp sub is equal to b.emp id. All right. Now, what is a join? List is different types. So SQL join clause is used to combine records from two or more tables in an SQL database based on the related column between the two. Left join basically corresponds to the join when we retrieve all the records from the left and match the records from the right table. Right. Inner join basically retrieves records that have matching values in both tables involved in the join. This is widely used join for queries. So the syntax goes something like this: select star from table A, join table B. Select star from table A, inner join table B. And we have right join or the right outer join retrieves all records rows from the right and the matched records or rows from the left table. Then we have select star from table A, right join table B on a dot call is equal to b dot call. So full outer join retrieves all the records where there is a match in either the left or the right table. Select star from table A, full join table B on a dot call is equal to b dot call. Now, what is a foreign key? So if a foreign key comprises of single or collection of fields in a table that essentially refers to the primary key in another table, foreign key constraint ensures referential integrity in the relation between two tables. So it's basically it comprises of single or collection of fields in a table that essentially refers to the primary key in another table. So it ensures referential integrity in the relation between two tables. The table with the foreign key constraint is labeled as the child table, and the table containing the candidate key is labeled as the referenced or parent table. So table with foreign key is the child table, and table containing the candidate key is labeled as the referenced or the parent table. Right. So now create table students id int not null. So basically our aim is to create table with foreign key, which is the first way. I'll discuss the second way too. So create table students id int not null, name varchar 255, library id int, primary key id and foreign key library id, references library id. All right. So that is one way. Then the other way is id int not null, primary key just define here itself. Then name varchar 255, library id int foreign key, library id references library of library id. Okay. And then alter table students to add a new foreign key, add foreign key library id references library id. Right. Now, what is a subquery and what are the types? So a subquery is a query within another query, also known as a nested query or inner query. It's used to restrict or enhance the data to be queried by the main query, thus restricting or enhancing the output of the main query respectively. For example, here we fetch the contact information for students who have enrolled for the math subject. So select name, email, mobile address from my database.contacts, where roll number in. So in basically we have used, and we have used the braces, right? Open braces and brackets or braces. So this is the subquery part. Select roll number from my database students where subject is equal to maths. So basically we are selecting those students. We are selecting the roll numbers of those students who have enrolled in the subject maths, who are in maths, and when we have gotten this output from this subquery, then that would work on this query, the outer query. That is, now we extract the name, email, mobile address from all those students who have selected maths, right? So that's it. And now there are two types of subqueries: correlated and non-correlated. So correlated subquery cannot be considered as an independent query, but it can refer to the column in a table listed in the from of the main query, right? In the from of the main query, this is what this is referring to. Correlated subquery cannot be considered as an independent query, but it can refer to the column in a table listed in the from the main query. From of the main query. A non-correlated subquery can be considered as an independent query, and the output of the subquery is substituted in the main query, right? Then what is a primary key? So primary key constraint uniquely identifies each row in a table. It must contain unique values and has an implicit not null constraint. A table in SQL is strictly restricted to have one and only one primary key, which is comprised of single or multiple fields, columns. So create table students ID int not null, name varchar, primary key ID. Then basically primary key, what it says is basically it is a key that uniquely identifies each row in the table. It must contain unique values and has an implicit not null constraint. Implicit, right? Inbuilt, not null constraint. A table is strictly restricted to have one and only one primary key, which is comprised of single or multiple fields. Right? So primary key ID, it is not null. Then create table with multiple fields as the primary key. Multiple fields, okay. So create table students ID int not null, last name and first name we have, and the constraint that we put is on the PK student, that is primary key for student. So primary key ID and first name, that is why ID is also not null and first name is also not null, right? Naming a primary key, add constraint, okay, we did that, right? Now what are constraints in SQL? So let us discuss that. So constraints are used to specify the rules concerning data in the table. It can be applied for single or multiple fields in an SQL table during the creation of the table or after creating using the auto table command. The constraints are not null. So basically not null is the constraint for restricting null values from being inserted into a column. Then we have check, verifies that all values in a field that satisfy a condition. Verifies that all values in a field satisfy a condition. Default basically automatically assigns a default value if no value has been specified for that particular field. Unique ensures unique values to be inserted into the field. Then index constraint is it indexes a field, providing faster retrieval of records. Then we have primary key, uniquely identifies each record in the table. Foreign key ensures referential integrity for a record in another table, right? So these are the basic constraints that we have. Now what are tables and fields? So a table is an organized collection of data stored in the form of rows and columns. Columns can be categorized as vertical and rows are horizontal. So basically these are all the columns that we have, right? A, B, C, D, right? These are the columns and the rows are basically 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So these are the rows that we have. These are the rows horizontally and the vertical ones are columns. So columns are called the fields that are vertical fields, and rows can be referred to as records, or the horizontal rows are horizontal records, right? Now difference between SQL and MySQL, basically SQL is a standard language for retrieving and manipulating structured databases. On the contrary, MySQL is a relational database management system, RDBMS, like SQL Server, Oracle, or IBM DB2, that is used to manage these SQL databases. SQL is actually the standard language for retrieving and manipulated structured databases, right? Now, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is a standard language for relational database management systems. It's especially useful in handling organized data comprised of entities that are variables and relations between different entities of the data. Now, what is RDBMS and how is it different from DBMS? So RDBMS stands for a relational database management system. The key difference here compared to DBMS is that RDBMS stores data in the form of a collection of tables, and relations can be defined between the common fields of these tables. Most modern database management systems like MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, IBM DB2, and Amazon Redshift are based on RDBMS. And DBMS basically is database management system. It is a system software responsible for creation, retrieval, updation, and management of database. It ensures that our data is consistent, organized, and is easily accessible by serving as an interface between the database and its end users or application software. And what is a database? It's basically an organized collection of data stored and retrieved digitally from a remote or local computer system. What is the select statement? Basically, it is used to select data from a database. Data returned is stored in a result table called the result set, right? So the syntax is select star. Basically, all the elements, star means all the columns and all the records from my database dot students. What are some common clauses used with SQL select query in SQL? So we can use where clause, which is used to filter records that are necessary based on specific conditions that we put in the where clause. Then order by clause in SQL is used to sort the records based on some fields in ascending or descending, ASC or DESC, right? Then group by clause is used to group records with identical data and can be used in conjunction with the aggregation functions to produce summarized results from the database. Then we have having clause in SQL is used to filter records in combination with the group by clause. It is different from where, since the where clause cannot filter aggregated records. So for example, we have to, let us first go through this query. So then we'll understand what this query is talking about. So select count student ID country from my database.students, where country not equal to India, group by country, having count student ID greater than 5. Yeah, so basically let us reverse engineer and try to figure out what this query tries to extract. So select, select would basically print the result set that we have. Now we don't know what is going to be the what is the column and what is the row, right? So the columns are basically these two. So select count student ID and the country. So count student ID would first come and the country, right? I'm not writing it completely, but you can understand, right? So this is the count and the country. from this database that we already have, where country is not India. So basically this means that we are not considering the country India. So the country here would not be India. We can take all the other countries that are mentioned in the database that we have, right? Group by country. So we are grouping by country and having count of student ID, that is this count of student ID greater than 5. So basically what we are doing is that we are extracting from my database students all the students that are not present in India and are present in other countries, and basically have a population of those students greater than 5. That means the students in those countries have to be having a count greater than 5. So for example, we have 6 in USA, then we have 12 in China, let us say, right? And for example, if we had 4 in Vietnam, then we would not include it in our final result set, because the count of student ID must be greater than 5, right? And if the country is India, we are not going to include that, even if it has count greater than 5, because country is explicitly mentioned that where country is not equal to India. So yeah, that is why we won't include India. Now, what are union, minus, and intersect commands? So the union operator combines and returns the result set retrieved by 2 or more select statements. The minus operator in SQL is used to remove duplicates. Minus operator used to remove duplicates from the result set obtained by the second select query, from the result set obtained by the first select query, and then return the filtered result from the first. Union operator combines and returns the result set retrieved by 2 or more select statements. Now, intersect clause in SQL basically combines result set fetched by 2 select statements where records from one match the other, and then returns the intersection of the result set. So basically, you might not be able to understand what it means right now. So let me just show you graphically, or basically through a Venn diagram. So let us say this is, or this color would be better. Which one would be better? Let me see. Let us say we take red only, right? So this is the Venn diagram that I'm making, and this is basically, these are the two sets A and B. Let us say these are the two sets. So this represents the table A and this represents the table B. Union basically means the result set retrieved by 2 or more select statements, and union means we are selecting all the records, right? Union is A, union B is selecting all the records, and union basically could also correspond to cross join, right? Now moving on to the minus operator. So this is basically the Venn diagram, and minus operator A minus B would mean that we are selecting all the entries from A, but we have subtracted B. So this part gets empty because the whole of B is getting out of the context. So this is the A minus B, and you could also write it as A intersection, right? Let me see. Wait, A intersection B would give us this area, right? A intersection B is this area, and okay, and A intersection of A intersection B. Is this correct? Let me see. So if we have A and B, right? So A intersection B is actually giving us this area, right? And this is A. This is whole A. Okay, so this would be A minus, right? A minus A intersection B gives us the same operation, right? A minus A intersection B gives us the same operation, right? The same result. And the intersect clause would be basically this area, A intersection B, this area. Okay, so that is how we explain it. And yeah,